Oh no, Monkey Man fans, what now? Report, Dev Patel and Jordan Peele's pro-LGBTQ action movie Monkey Man fails to impress at the box office. This story comes to us from Josh Berger over at Bounding Into Comics. Mainstream media may prop up the pro-LGBTQ action movie Monkey Man as the best thing since sliced bread, but numbers don't lie, and the Jordan Peele-produced film has proven to be nothing more than a disappointment at the box office. Lead actor Dev Patel, who also co-wrote and directed the film, promoted Monkey Man, declaring, "For me, this is an anthem for the underdogs, the voiceless, and the marginalized." Taking allusion to India's transgender community, making allusion rather, and added, quote, "Together they waged this war for the good and the just, and for me, I really wanted to include the Hira community, the third gender in India." Explaining that at its core, Monkey Man is a, quote, revenge film about faith? Quote, for me, it's become rigid over time. And, look at old carvings in the temples and like the freedom, the sexuality, all of it, the philosophy was so ahead of its time. Really? Really? They didn't know how, like, internal combustion engines worked. Like, come on, man. Come on. They didn't have slushies, right? Like, can you really consider them ahead of their time if they don't have slushy machines? What kind of civilization can you be considered if you don't have a slushy machine? Come on. Woke mainstream media outlets have been praising Monkey Man solely for the fact that it features transgender representation, not a surprise after Patel openly promoted it as a pro-LGBTQ plus action film. In her article titled "The Radical Impact of Monkey Man's Transgender Heroes," GQ's Lucy Ford writes, quote, "The Hira, to put it plainly, kick ass. They wield knives, hurl axes, throw explosives in goons' faces, and spin the dropkick counter off its wheels." Whatever that is. I don't know why the dropkick counter has wheels. Is it a mobile drive? Does it drive around? I don't know. Is it like the Google car? Quote, "To give the transgender community such a prominent role and one that focuses on their bravery and agency rather than their suffering feels radical in a cultural landscape that is becoming more and more dangerous for trans people." Tell that to J.K. Rowling and all the people that they trying to get at her, like that Portuguese lady that they doxed, thinking it was her daughter. It makes me gag thinking, just sick. With an article highlighting Patel's interview about the film featuring India's transgender community, Hannah Giran writes for Woke Screen Rant, quote, "Including the Hira community is also vital for a high-profile action film such as Monkey Man. Though representation of LGBTQ plus community in the media has vastly improved in recent years, there are still very few action films that include transgender characters." It's just so absurd, right? That's why I can't say it out loud. It's just so absurd. It's a thought that can only exist in your head, like an imaginary friend. Quote, "By including multiple trans and gender nonconforming roles, Monkey Man makes strides toward this representation while also introducing audiences to a subculture in India with which they may not be familiar." She adds, later noting that Monkey Man's, quote, "representation effort is admirable." You heard it here. Los Angeles Times' Katie Walsh notes, quote, "Patel's plot relies on sexual aggression towards women as a moral cheat sheet while also using the same exploitation as a cheeky visual backdrop, a trope that can often be a trap. Monkey Man is far more successful at exploring sexuality in the genre via a group of transgender women who teach the kid transgender women teach a kid. Who teach the kid how to harness his pain into power. Okay, no. That is a phrase that there's nope, that should not be in a sentence right there. Katie then points out, mentioning that Patel's character is taught the ropes by the incredibly compelling Vipin Sharma, who plays a transgender woman named Alpha in the film. Now that makes sense, right? Indian tribe living in the woods, Indian tribe of India living in the woods, transgender people using the Greek alphabet as names. Representation, you bet. In an article for Woke Cinema Blend titled, quote, "This is an anthem for the underdogs," Dev Patel talks including the trans community in Monkey Man. Riley Utley writes, quote, "It's a fantastic film with LGBTQ plus representation. It's wonderful to hear that so many have felt seen by Monkey Man and that they found the trans representation in the film touching." Like, when all those trans people were murdering straight men. Yeah, I'm sure they felt really right there. As much as Patel and Peele attempt to use Monkey Man to inject social commentary and represent transgender ideology, the film has not quite been able to represent a solid box office debut. Per information collected by the Box Office Mojo, the Jordan Peele-produced film was only able to gross $10 million at the domestic box office and opening weekend across 3,029 theaters, which is quite low considering it was predicted to have an opening weekend ranging between $15 million and $20 million, with a reported production budget of $10 million as well. David Ayer's Beekeeper, another revenge film drawing inspiration from Keanu Reeves-led John Wick series, grossed a domestic $16 million on opening weekend when it made its debut in January of this year being 2024, the year of our Lord 2024. In its sixth weekend since release, Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 2 pulled $7,432,361 at the box office and placed itself 6th position of this week, trailing Kung Fu Panda 4, they've made 4 of these now, which managed to gross $7,771,900. I guess that's why they keep making them. Okay. Disney's The First Omen sits in 4th place at $8,353,710, also making its debut this past weekend. The 3rd place goes to Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which managed to gross $9,033,197 in its 3rd weekend since release. Debuting in the 2nd place with a domestic gross of $10,119,435, Monkey Man has got nothing on Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire, which was able to pull in at number 1 a respectable $31,203,359. Domestic. By the way, that's just the domestic, on its 2nd weekend since its theatrical release. To better illustrate this, the very first John Wick released to 2,589 theaters in 2014 and had a domestic opening weekend of $14,415,922. Sorry, I got ahead of myself, which adjusted for inflation would equate to $18,897,148. That's right. I said that right. So which means that would mean it opened $8 million more than what Monkey Man would have opened with, has opened with. As Breitbart's John Nolte eloquently puts in his reporting of the Monkey Man's box office failure, quote, "There is nothing sympathetic about the transsexual movement. To portray them as underdogs is a total lie and a clown move and utterly dishonest." What do you think about this? Let us know down in the comments below. And do you feel that the Monkey Man movie was a good John Wick kind of inspired by? Or do you feel like they sort of took that motif in an attempt to, I don't know, try to ram in more agenda, the message, if you will, that they just can't give up no matter how much money they lose?